We are live. We are live. We're going to take a little time. We're going to let everybody kind of roll in here. Probably give about 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you for everybody joining. I really appreciate it. Feel like it's going to be a great opportunity to hear some things about the day in the life of a sports dentist. Super excited about it. So give me about 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes. Doc, I see you joined on here. Request to follow, and we're gonna set you up, Doc. Doc, you on here?
We made it.
We made it.
What's up, man?
Man, nothing much, nothing much. How's your day going?
It's going. It's a long day, that's for sure. I'm usually only working like 2, 3 days a week, so those days are crazy, like 10, 12
Absolutely.
hours. So I try to cram a week's worth into about 48 hours.
Man, I know it's crazy. So we got a lot of people joining in right now. So I want to make sure I be conscious of your schedule as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in it. So again,
Go
everybody,
for it.
thank you for joining in on the first IG Live series, Tell Me More. And we're going to be diving into the official dentist for the Brooklyn Nets, Dr. Andrew. Let's give a clap for that.
I only hear one person clapping. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds so official when you say it like that. But
Man, it
no, man,
is.
I didn't realize this was the first show.
First
So
one. First one. It's a perfect one to start with. What you think?
I'm honored, man. I'm honored, man. It does make it feel a little bit like amateur hour, but that's okay. It's fine. No,
It's all good.
yeah,
Well,
but
yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get started. Yeah. Tell us
well,
about yourself, your intro, kind of your education. And you go start right there.
sure, man. It's hard to believe, but I just had my 10-year reunion from NYU. So I've been out for a little bit. Doesn't feel like it because it's been going real fast and crazy. But I graduated in '09. I did my residency here in New York too, and then my first job was as an operating room attending. So that was the hospital where I did my residency. So it was cool. It was a lot of experience doing surgery in the OR, and that kind of like put me on the path to the work I do now. It's always been very like surgery heavy. Not so much the cosmetic stuff. I mean, now that's what everybody wants to do, and it just
Absolutely.
never really interested me that much. I prefer the like the blood and guts of it. Definitely don't repeat that. Don't tell people that. Like for me, I find that like a lot more interesting, a lot more satisfying. Um, so that's sort of something I always kind of was doing anyway, and that's why it ended up being like a perfect kind of transition into the sports thing because it's a lot of sports trauma. Um, so it's different. It's not something you think of when you think dentist. You think fillings and veneers and all this other stuff. And it's not really what I do nowadays. But that's it. That's me, man. I've been doing my own thing in private practice. I started my company back in 2012 and just kept expanding. So in addition to the sports stuff, I have 4 practices now. So I'm
Wow.
just running all over the place. Yeah, man. Trying to get in every
So so
borough.
within so within I'm sorry to cut you off. So you graduated 2009, you finished your residency in 2012, and now up to date to 2019, you now have 4 offices.
Yeah, so when I was first getting started, I bought into a practice where I was working in 2012, and it was going well, and I just kept putting everything back into the business.
Nice.
So the first one kind of snowballed into the second one, into the third one, and so little by little like that, I've just been kind of grinding. And before I knew it, I had a pretty big operation,
Wow.
pretty big staff. I think all the locations I probably have like 12 to 15 dentists working for me.
Jesus.
And like I said, almost in every borough. I skipped the crummy ones. I got the good ones. Um, yeah, but But yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm doing outside of the sports stuff. It's probably like a 50-50 split. Like half my time is like administrative, the other half is actually seeing patients.
Yeah, and that's the question I wanted to ask because, by you being the dentist for the Brooklyn Nets, but you also are managing four practices, like how does that balance kind of occur? Like, is there any like, does the Nets kind of fall to the wayside? Are the practices losing? Like how are you able to balance between all of that going on at one time?
Yeah, I think that was like the most popular question. Yeah, man, it's there's good things and bad things about it. The good thing is that since my role is largely like administrative, I would say I'm more of like a clinical director. So I oversee a lot of the
Okay.
stuff, but I'm less involved in the day-to-day patient care. So it gives me a lot of flexibility. Especially if things come up with the team. It's very similar like to being on call. Like I know you guys haven't done residency yet, but ooh, you go like that.
Yeah.
Having a pager and have to be on call 24 hours a day, over weekends and things like that. So it's like, sometimes these things come up. So it's actually a good fit because I do have the ability to kind of like drop everything and be there. I wouldn't have that ability if I was in like a solo practice by myself,
Yeah.
had to do it, so it's actually
Right.
really good to have this big team of people with me. Yeah.
Right. So being in that position of being basically an owner operator, you're able to kind of be a little bit more flexible and spend your time kind of how you want to spend your time, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's great.
Okay.
It allows me to kind of, travel when I need to travel, be with the sports things when I need to be with them. And I kind of get to like pick and choose the cases I do, which is nice. Because like I said, the way I practice is very like surgery heavy, so a lot of implants, a lot of perio surgery, that kind of thing. So when those cases come up, I take them on for myself too sometimes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, real quick, I'm gonna interject. I just want to shout out everybody that's been joining so far. Doc, we're at 34 people in and out, but thank you again for everybody joining in. We just dove into his introduction, kind of explaining like how did he get to the position he's in now. And Doc, I want to now follow up with, so how did the opportunity with the Nets come about? You know what I mean? Like this is a crazy thing for a lot of us dental students. We've all looked at, opportunities like this. Well, I'm not gonna even say that. I'll say that I didn't even know this was a thing. Literally, I'm scrolling on Instagram. I'm looking at different things all the time, and
Uh,
I just saw that they're NBA dentists. I'm like, I didn't know that was an actual opportunity. Something that I could actually do. So, explain how the
uh,
Nets opportunity kind of came about.
I'll tell you, man, that makes two of us. Because I was a little surprised by it's weird. Like, yeah, thinking back, it sounds crazy, but at the time, it kind of just happened very organically. One of the practices I have is right near the arena in Park Slope in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I'm there with my partner, Dr. Steinbach, who's like the man, the king dentist hipster cool guy over there that everyone loves.
Yeah.
And I mean that as like a really big compliment, by the way. But anyway, so we had this really nice like high end practice over there, and they kind of just cold called us one day. They needed some
Whoa.
help, I guess. Yeah, they were having some transitions in the medical staff around that time. This was in 2016.
Okay.
Um, so we got the call, and it kind of sounded like it was probably fake. But we decided to like hear them out. They wanted to have a meeting, and the meeting was at the HSS training center where they practice. So we went, and the first person that introduced himself was, Sean Marks, the GM, and I was like, okay, it's looking like it might be real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it was so informal. Like it was like we already had the job. They just wanted to meet us, so they were like taking us on a tour. And like while we're going on a tour, like we see the team practicing right there, and just trying not to like totally geek out and just act like it wasn't a mistake and we're
Yeah.
just supposed to be there. And that's kind of like just how it happened. Like we just got along with them really well because they're young guys over there too. Um, so we just gave it a go. They needed the help, and we just happened to fill the spot. So I guess I would say it's just good marketing. Having a real good web presence so people can find you.
Yeah.
Real good reputation is really important Taking their insurance always helps
For
because that was a
sure.
big part of it too. And literally, like, the only other box that they really wanted to check was like a dentist. They need a dentist like on staff. So as long as we check that box, they're like, okay, you're good. Like that was pretty much all they did to sort of like vet our credentials. They're like, well, you're on the
Wow.
internet, you must be good. So it's kind of cool. And that, like I said, that was back in 2016. So we're at the end of our third season, and just it's like a real good fit. We work well together, and I think we provide a pretty good service for those guys. So it seems like they're going to be sticking with us pretty much indefinitely. Knock on wood,
Awesome.
obviously.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but that's kind of, there's no real good story that goes with it. I think it was probably like the same amount of skill it takes to win like a scratch off lottery ticket, something like that.
Really,
That's
really.
it's
And
just
see,
like,
and from a student my bad, Doc. And from a student
hey,
perspective, you know, it's that's kind of unfortunate, because right now we're so, especially the millennial generation, like we're so like antsy for these opportunities. So when I hear something like that, I'm like, how can I be best prepared, or what
man,
should I do? And then from hearing this from you, it's more so just like right
yeah,
timing, right
well,
position.
don't worry. If there's time, we'll talk about the UFC too, because that's a whole different story.
Yeah, we could definitely dump into that. Yeah,
That might be more your speed, but it wasn't total luck. I think it's just like, you'll hear people say like, the harder I work, the luckier I get. It's the same kind of thing. Like you wouldn't even have these opportunities if you weren't in that position. And
definitely.
it didn't happen right there. It was like a culmination of all the work, building out this practice, surrounding myself with the right people, obviously having really good marketing and a really good reputation so that when they're looking for someone, you're the one that they find. So I
For
think
sure.
that's just as important. And if it's not them, it's somebody else. And there are a lot of people that do sports dentistry. I'm finding out there's like a whole community, and it's not always just professional sports. Um, you know, College sports, high school sports, they need that kind of help too. So if you just sort of put that out there, I think that's sort of what you'll attract, and that's kind of what I've been doing over the last few years. I use a lot of social media to kind of just show people what I'm doing, and it attracts those same kind of people. Um,
Definitely.
so it started with the Nets, and I get referrals all the time. From other sports teams. They had a couple people in from the Trailblazers, the Timberwolves. Just when they're in town and stuff. Other kind of sports people, because they see the kind of experience that you have and the kind of work that you do, and they're like, okay, that's the guy.
Right. So with you saying, like, you really keened in on marketing, would you say that as a student doctor, coming into the profession, that like a social platform is important to kind of start establishing if you want to kind of get in positions like this?
It's hard to say. Like, I think there's good things and bad things about it. I think as far as like connecting with patients, it's great. Right out of
Right.
school, if you're trying to connect with potential employers, I don't know if it's that great because I've seen a couple things pop up. People are posting cases, and it's just like, oh, sure you want to show people that that's not that good.
Mm.
So you want to make sure that you're at the right level to really start promoting yourself, because I think like most people in this profession, you want to say they're probably about 85 to 90% proficient at what they do. And I think
Mm.
all of that difference is pretty imperceivable to patients. It's only that like top 10%, the really, really high end stuff that people are going to notice. So I think it's important not to take it like too seriously, because I see people who take
Yeah,
it way too seriously. And I think it's important to have some of your own kind of personality come through too, because if
definitely.
I'm a patient, that's just as important, to make sure that the guy's not a weirdo, or has really, bad taste in movies, whatever.
For sure. Yeah.
So I think to kind of balance those two things, and that's sort of like, that's kind of what I try to do. I try not to take it too seriously. I post cases here and there, but that's really not a lot of what I'm about. I just like to post cool things that I'm doing. A lot about my dog too. That gets a
Yeah,
lot of
man, you
attention.
love your dog, man, Frenchie. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be more and more important. I tell you, man, people are nervous about you guys. A lot of the older generation who don't do a lot with social media, they kind of see all this stuff that's starting while you guys are still in school, and you
Yeah,
know, the patients don't know. Like if you tell them you know what you're doing, they think you know what you're doing. So it's real good that you guys are starting so early. I think
definitely,
people are
definitely.
nervous. That's
All
for
right, so
sure.
nah, it's all good. So look, I'm gonna dive into another question. So, I know people are probably urging to know like what the day in life of the sports dentist of the Brooklyn Nets look like. So, can you kind of just
Sure.
walk me through kind of like the most abbreviated version of walking me through like starting from preseason to kind of in game, like what exactly you're doing and what's going on?
Sure. Um, yeah, so usually for us, we get to see everybody in like August, September. That's like the tail end of preseason. All the new guys are in, and they basically go through a full set of medical checks. We do it with all the other physicians too. It's basically like a day or two at the training facility, and we just do like a quick run through everybody, make sure there are no major issues, try to deal with what we can before the season starts. And at that point, they're kind of just like any other patients. Any work that they need, we just bring them into the office and take care of it like that. So in that respect, they're just like any other patient. Um, Game days is a much different story and much better stories. Um, because part of the job is we have to be present for every home game for any kind of injuries that happen during the game. In an ideal world, we would treat it, patch it up, and send it back into the game. So that's why it's really important that we're there in the building. Um, we're another thing too that I think maybe people were asking that people don't always realize. We're also responsible for the visiting teams. So any teams that are in Brooklyn for the games, they're our responsibility too for
I didn't know
emergencies.
that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure I told people so we get to meet some other cool athletes too. But as far as during the games, I would say it's like 90, maybe 95% of the time it's like a babysitting gig. You're just kind of there just in case. We just sit with the team in case there's an issue we have to jump on it. It's that other like 5 to 10% of the time it gets a little dicey. I think this was a question too, like what kind of treatment we do. So we can kind of get into that. I would say like the vast majority is lacerations, lip, tongue,
So to the
cheek,
face,
eyebrow,
yeah, yeah,
everything. Yeah. And people forget, if you have that DDS degree, your DMD degree, I mean, you're a surgeon. That's what we do more so than like internal medicine or something like that. So the kind of other physicians that are there, we have internal medicine, orthopedic surgeon, foot and ankle guy, radiologist. So more often than not, like I know it sounds silly, but for a lot of these injuries, they go right to dental. I think my partner did an eyebrow like last month. I did a chin one time. Uh, like I said, lip, cheek, tongue, all that kind of stuff.
wow,
So most of those cases are actually putting in sutures and closing up injuries like that. Luckily, we haven't had any crazy like avulsions or like luxation injuries and stuff where we really had to like splint it or like broken teeth on the spot. Luckily, it's mostly sutures if you can believe that. Yeah,
really? Okay,
yeah.
yeah, because
This
I think, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like this year's been relatively quiet, but for some reason our second year there, I'm telling you, every week we're laying sutures. There's 41 home games. I would say at least 15 to 20 games. Like almost half the time, I feel like we were doing something. It was
Wow,
crazy. Just a
wow.
weird kind of season. Yeah, and if it wasn't the Nets, it was like the visiting teams too. It was
Right,
crazy.
right, right. And see, I didn't know that you guys have to do both teams. So that changes
Yeah,
everything where you're not just taking care of your people.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And you're supposed to be nice to them. You're not supposed to play favorites. You gotta be professional.
Right.
um, yeah, but that's pretty
What's
much it. And then like, yeah,
I was gonna say,
I was gonna
what's the
say,
craziest case you've seen?
you've had some gnarly ones, man. The worst one that I ever experienced personally, it was like a fast break play. Guy wasn't really looking forward, full on sprint and collided face to face with another player. And for some reason, he must have been built a little bit more delicately than the other guy because his face exploded. It
What?
was a through and through, yeah, man. It was like a through and through lip and cheek laceration, almost 2 inches. So think like the Joker, like this.
Yeah.
As an example, like 2 inch, like maybe like an inch and a half. But through and through, so completely open, internal and external.
Jesus.
He was also like semi-concussed, so it was a challenge to like get him off the court into the exam room. And this was, I think this was like the beginning of our second year or so, and it happened to be a player that I knew pretty well. Like I'd seen him in the office before. Actually, like took out his wisdom teeth, so we bonded over that. So it's kind of weird seeing somebody that I actually knew pretty well go through such an injury like that. And it was weird. They brought him into the back, and it was me, internal medicine guy, foot and ankle guy, the three of us basically cleaning him up, putting him down. I was in the middle, and I had one of them on either side. And it was so bad that they stopped the game for it. The GM came in, some of the players came in just to kind of see him and sit with him. Like they had his mom on the phone and all this kind of stuff. And then it kind of got a little quiet in the room, and everyone sort of just got quiet and kind of turned in my direction like this and looked at me. And I'm like, huh? Because I never really made the connection that like, oh, this is my responsibility now. So it's kind of weird. And that was probably like the only time I ever actually like got the shakes when I started working, just getting them numb and doing the injections. But like once I got started, it was kind of business as usual.
Right.
And in those situations, you kind of just go on autopilot. It's like the muscle memory kind of takes over. And it seemed like an eternity. It probably took about 20 minutes. And I think we laid about 20, 25 sutures, intraorally, extraorally, intramuscular.
That's crazy.
Put them back together, man. And it was a rough one. I'd say like the biggest challenge that day was trying not to take a big dump in my pants because
Right.
I talk about high stress, man.
Man, I can believe it.
Yeah, and that was really like the first time that I had a case of that magnitude there, and it was like I was expecting like a really big like pat on the back. Like I remember that we had a game like 2 days later, and I did like a quick little post-op there, and I was expecting this like standing ovation from the other docs and everything like that. And it was nothing like that. It was very quiet, but it was a much different vibe. It was like, okay, we you had your audition. You're one of us now. Join the. It was weird. It was like it was very much unspoken, but it was a very different vibe after that. It was like, okay, like you passed the test.
It's kind of like a rites of passage.
Yeah, so I think so I do this with a couple of my partners too, and I think we've all sort of like had those little moments here and there where it's like, okay, now you're locked in,
Yeah.
You passed the test, and it's something like you can't prepare for because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
But it worked out perfectly because the first thing I told you guys is, I've been doing surgery my whole career.
Yeah.
And suits every day, like I could do that in my sleep. And it's just a coincidence that it happened when I was there on my watch. I don't want to like get into like too many details about like who it was and stuff like that. But if there's anybody creative out there, I'm sure you guys can find stuff online.
Definitely.
And, but that was a rough one, man.
I could believe
it. Yeah, for sure. And so, I mean, after that, man, everything's a piece of cake. Everything is a piece of cake after a case like that. And you'll find that stuff in your career. I was lucky that those kind of cases happened during residency. So, but before I even got out of school, basically, I felt like I was invincible. You know what I mean? It's like I saw all the crazy shit in the hospital. So it's like, it's I don't know if you guys are thinking about that already, because like in New York we had to do it, so it was always like a done deal. I looked at it like a chore at the time, but in hindsight it was a great experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hey, Doc, I appreciate you sharing that. I know we in a little time crunch. We might go a little bit over because I want to touch a couple more topics because I know people are dying to hear.
For sure.
So let's talk about now, as a sports dentist, I know a lot of people probably wondering this. What is the compensation situation as a sports dentist? A lot of people are like, oh man, he has a ton of practices. He has other things going on. You know, he's working with the Nets. Like, what is that? What does the pay look like? What does that look like?
Well, believe it or not, it kind of happened backwards. I got all the practices and everything else first, and then it kind of led to this. But yeah, I mean, I think every deal is kind of different. I know with
Mm-hmm.
physicians, they're compensated a little bit differently than us because they're not in private practice. For us, the ability to market and advertise is the most valuable thing about it. So it's structured in a contract. You know, that's why I was saying you can use that title, official dentist of the Brooklyn Nets, medical staff of the Brooklyn Nets, because we fought hard for that title. You know, and
For
that's sort of
sure.
something they let us use, and they give us. You know, it's very strict in other areas, but that's something that is probably the most valuable thing: the ability to market that we're part of that medical team over there. But as far as like dollars and cents, man, they got good insurance. I could tell you that. You know, so like any other patient, you know, the work that we do for them is paid. There are obviously like some perks here and there. You know, like having to be at all the home games.
Right, right, right.
Too bad, and stuff like that. You know, so there's a lot of other sort of like perks that go with it as well. Yeah. But it's not
Okay.
it's not it's not something like we got like, you know, millions of dollars in a contract just for signing on it. You know, it's not like that. You know, it's like it's basically, you know, just the stream of patients and the ability to kind of market that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Definitely, and that's the one point I wanted to make sure you focused on was because that was one thing that was surprising to me. You know, when we had our conversation of because you look at that tagline, that brand, you're thinking automatically, I know it's some crazy money attached to that as well. You know what I mean? Like definitely a dope opportunity, but I'm pretty sure the money's there too. So I'm glad you really cleared that up, just to kind of give people an
Yeah.
understanding of it's more so like branding but every contract's different though, like you were saying though.
Yeah, and also don't forget, I mean, if you guys are thinking that, that's exactly what patients are thinking too, you know, and that's why
Mm,
it really like it gave all the practices a serious boost, and not only that, it attracts a specific kind of clientele too, players from other teams, people from other sports, you know, and that's sort of like kind of what got me into some other areas too, like with combat sports, with some of these UFC guys and things like that. They see that tagline too, you know, and that's why they're like, okay, I could go to some random guy who's just a dentist who does fillings and veneers and all this other kind of stuff, or this guy
yeah,
who's part of a professional sports team, you know. So that's sort of like how I've been doing my marketing lately, and
awesome.
it's attracting like a whole new group of people. Yeah, yeah,
I can believe it. I can believe it. So look,
yeah,
hey,
man.
I'm gonna look at. I got a couple more questions, and then we're gonna get
Sure.
out of here. Also, I want to make an interlude right here. Again, we have 45 people, Doc. This is crazy. I don't think lives
All
don't
right.
do this generally. So we're gonna clap it up for our people. Clap it
Oh,
up for
okay.
everybody.
Wow, that's
uh,
exciting.
yeah. So everybody, we're doing some giveaways today. Doc is gonna be giving away two jerseys, two Brooklyn Nets jerseys. We got a coffee mug, we got some backpacks, we got a ton of different things. You can go over to Doc's page. Doc, just comment your page right here on the page, on the live. Comment your IG name. You can go over to his page, follow him, and comment under our posts. And he's gonna randomly pick a couple people to be able to give a couple of those items to. So we got a couple jerseys. I think we got a D'Angelo jersey. I don't know.
I think we got a couple D'Angelos. Yeah, I think one men's, one women's. Yeah, you got to have
Okay,
the
perfect. Yeah,
D'Angelo.
ice in the veins. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. Last couple questions, and then we can kind of get off here. I know we're right at 7:30, so probably about 5 more minutes,
Yeah,
10 more minutes.
we'll do
So
a speed round.
yeah, speed round. So one thing you didn't talk about. So a lot of people want to get in this opportunity and be a sports dentist, but how are the players? You know what I mean? Like, are they like prima donnas? Are they like, like how's dealing with the players? Is it even worth it?
Yeah, man. Believe it or not, it's probably the total opposite of what you're thinking of, you know, because we've dealt with other kind of celebrities, people in like the music industry and actors and stuff, and they're the worst. They're really just
Really?
terrible. But with athletes, it's different. They're very, very disciplined, very hardworking. They come in with that mentality too. Um, Very respectful. And I don't know if this is just with the Nets, but just very nice, very down to earth. And we kind of forget they're kids, man. I've seen a couple of these guys when they were 19 years old, 20 years old, to the point where like I would have to ask like, hey, do you have any allergies? And he's like, wait, let me call my mom real quick. It's like, oh, that's what, you know, they're you know, 6'10", but they're kind of, they're, you know, we forget they're like, you know, much younger than we are.
For sure.
But just a real good group of guys. And also, you know, a lot of their like transportation and stuff like that's coordinated with the training staff. So, you know, for the most part, if they have to be somewhere, everybody will make sure that they're there. There may be like one or two exceptions to that. Again, I won't give you any names, but I would say like the vast majority are great. And maybe one or two have some punctuality issues, but also
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I think that's one of the big things that I want to make sure everybody kind of gets a whole holistic, you know, a holistic perspective of what that experience
Yeah.
feels like. You know, what else we got? I'm actually jump into some of the questions that were submitted, and
And
we do like
I'll
two or
say
three
real
more
quick
questions, and
too.
then you can talk whatever. Yeah,
If anybody doesn't get a question in, you could just shoot me a message if you want. Shoot me a comment. I'll try to get to all of them. I should be able to. And also, you know, maybe we'll do this again if there's still a lot more questions.
definitely, definitely. Sounds good. Let me see what we got. Going to the list now. Pretty much covered everything, Doc.
Ahead of schedule.
Hey, let's actually dive into, so outside of being the Brooklyn Nets dentist, you also have jumped into some things with the UFC. Just talk about some of these new developments, and just talk about where you see like the future of sports dentistry going.
Mhm. Sure, man. Yeah, so the UFC is something I've always really been into just as a fan. I don't really have an affiliation with them. I'm just like a big fan. I've been following it for a long time. But it was something I actively went after, you know, something I actively tried to attract into my practices. Um, and it worked. You know, I sort of was able to piggyback everything I've done with the Nets and all these other things, and I reached out to several fighters, and I got a pretty good response. I post a lot of that stuff on Instagram because I'm always bringing them out to basketball games. Actually, this Thursday, I'm bringing another friend of mine from the UFC to the playoff game.
So
But yeah, the two things kind of really just meshed together, and you know, and it really helped like attract more of these kind of people. And as soon as I got one, the second one was a lot easier. The third one happened by itself. You know, so it kind of just snowballed once people see like, oh, this guy is treating other people in my fields. You know, it was a natural fit there. But that was something that did not happen organically. You know, that was something
really,
I went out and made happen. Yeah. We're always going to events in New York. You know, just like I said, like as a fan, but I was always treating it as like networking opportunities. And they have some like, you know, there's opportunities to be in their like hospitality suite if you get these passes. So, you know, you get to mingle with some of the fighters. And just from chatting from some of the guys, you know, we just kind of hit it off and got along to the point where even like some of them we hang out with like outside of the practice. And that's something that we definitely do not do with the Nets. The Nets is like very professional, you know, you got to kind of mind your P's and Q's. But these guys we just really get along with to the point where I actually like would call them friends. We've traveled with some of them to fights, which is a whole nother set of stories we can save for next time. And actually we got one coming up in June. I think we're going to be traveling with another one of my patients to his fight out in Chicago. So that's going to be huge. Definitely got to talk about that.
yeah.
Yeah. But I'm hoping it kind of keeps going, you know. Yeah.
And one thing that you said seems like a common theme is that you know, you've been presented with these opportunities, but the networking aspect and kind of being a little bit more forthcoming and building relationships has kind of, and stating your intentions has kind of opened up these other doors. Is that kind of something, basically what you're saying? Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. That first opportunity, sort of like I said, happened kind of by accident. But after that, there were no more accidents. It was actively pursuing it and literally telling people, about what I was doing, what I can do for them. And it was just a great fit. So I think that's really important. And that's sort of like a rule I have now. Like, just meet as many people as I can, talk to as many people as I can, especially like not even with that, just like when I'm hiring doctors, for example,
for
like
sure.
I try to talk to everybody I can. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, how much experience you have. If you want to work for me, I'll give you an interview. I'll talk to you. And
Absolutely.
that's sort of like a mentality I kind of take everywhere, because you never know. You never know who you're going to be sitting across from.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Hey Doc, I'm gonna do a quick shout out roll call. There's a lot of people tuning in. Just want to shout out everybody I see
Okay.
coming in. And I see you, Michael Jordan. I see you, Nachos. Thank you for tuning in. X, thank you for tuning in. Morgan, thank you for tuning in. Brett, thank you for tuning in. Osmar, thank you for tuning in. Ton of my Tufts families on here tuning in. Terry, thank you for tuning in. Dr. Weston, thank you for tuning in. Christian, thank you for tuning in. Rob, thank you for tuning in. Malik, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, so we've been going for about 36 minutes. Doc, I'm going to go to these comments. So there's a couple questions in the comments. We're going to do like a
Sure.
quick 1 minute type wrap up. So I asked a question, 1 minute answer. Let's kind of rush through a couple of these. We got about 5 more minutes left. So I'm going to start from the top. What would you say would be your dental philosophy? And that's a kind of tricky question, but
Dental philosophy, eh?
yeah,
Um, it's hard to say. I mean, there are definitely some things that I could tell you clinically. I don't know if
yeah,
that's something that you're looking for. I just, me personally, I would say I have a really strong emphasis on perio.
okay,
That's something that comes up a lot for me, especially working in the outer boroughs. A lot of people have it. A lot of people aren't treated properly. So every case, that's usually where I start.
okay.
Especially in the outer boroughs, it's not a very exciting answer.
No, that's
But
fine. That's fine. No, that's all we need.
yeah, I mean that's the kind of work that I enjoy. So that's usually where I start. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, on to the next one. Here we go. So this is from a current resident. So what is your best dental trauma guide or like your go-to?
If they have one, send it to me. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know off the top of my head. I know there are a lot of resources if you look online. For me, it just kind of came with experience. I did a lot of cases in residency, so it was kind of working with some oral surgeons and things like that here and there. And you'll find like you get your own sort of like repertoire, right? Like you have your handful of procedures that you do really well. I would say the same thing with suture techniques. There are 2 or 3 techniques that work for everything for me. So same thing. You'll hear a lot of different opinions with like splinting and stuff like that too. But I don't know of like the best like online kind of resource. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just have her. You could just. I have her hit you up, DM you directly, and y'all can kind of have some dialogue about some potential
Yeah,
things.
man, for sure, for sure. These
Cool,
are these.
cool.
Yeah, for sure.
We got about 3 more questions, Doc.
Fire away.
We went through this one. So, do you travel with the team?
Ah, so yeah, we don't travel with the team, and the way that it works for us is like I was saying, we take care of the home teams when they're in town as well. So it's similar with the Nets, like they have the opponent's doctors working with them.
Okay,
Ironically, I went to school with the dentist for the 76ers,
that's
which is like a
crazy.
crazy coincidence. So right now they're playing the series, and that's for 76ers. So we're both
Right.
like kind of working on
That's
both
what's
teams.
up. That's what's up.
So that's weird, yeah. But usually that's how it works. And
Okay.
the only times we did travel, it wasn't as a dentist, or just as a friend, like I was saying, we've gone to fights before where my patients were fighting, and we got one coming up in June as well.
Okay, perfect. And we have one more question, and then we do a wrap up. This kind of just sums up everything that we've already talked about. But a student asks, how can I actively pursue a career in sports dentistry? What are some of the best ways to make connections? So let's kind of wrap everything up in a couple sentences about, kind of how to actively pursue the career.
Sure. I think like the way that I did it is like my mouth was way ahead of my hand skills when I got out of school. I could talk anybody into anything. I could close any case. I can convince anyone of anything. I just wasn't as good yet, but patients don't know that. Employers don't know that, so you just want to, kind of present yourself the way that you want to be perceived. Don't worry that you don't have that experience yet. Don't worry that you don't work for, a sports team yet. You can still present yourself in that same way. And just try to get that kind of experience. The problem is like, it's hard to get good, like trauma experience outside of residency. Cause in private practices, I'd say those cases are pretty few and far between.
Yeah,
But if you're in the hospital, if you got an ER rotation, I mean, you're going to be doing that all day long. So just sort of keep that in the back of your minds. And just, like I said, put it out there, just be aware of how people are perceiving you. And if you want to be a sports guy, just market yourself that way. And, hopefully some opportunities will come that way to you. Yeah.
for sure. Hey, Doc, this was amazing. I know you have a couple shameless plugs you want to go ahead and insert right here. I also want to tell all the viewers that we want you to, we're giving away a lot of things tonight. We have 2 Brooklyn Nets jerseys, 1 female, 1 male, D'Angelo jerseys that we're going to give away. We also have lunch boxes, coffee mugs, a couple other things. All we want you to do is go to Doc's page. He posted you can post it one more time, Doc. Post his IG name here. You can follow his page. You follow him, comment under below, and he'll be able to take care of you guys. So you're gonna choose a couple people randomly to get the stuff. Doc, yeah, go ahead and hit us with I know you had to say a couple things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you guys want to hear a little bit more about kind of what I do from more of like a sports psychology angle, I'm gonna be doing. I'm a guest on another podcast coming up next month. Let me give you the link right here. But that's a good friend of mine who's a sports psychologist. He also works with a lot of professional athletes. So we're just gonna chat, about some of our experience dealing with professional athletes and kind of some of the things they have to deal with, which is going to be good. And that's that's really like, okay, that's the only like plug I got. Everything else, I would say, like, anybody, if you have questions we didn't get to, just shoot me a message. I think I should be able to get to all of them. And then if there's really a lot more stuff you think of, we'll do it again, man. You know where to find me.
Definitely. Sounds good. Doc, thank you again. Hey,
Yeah,
I don't know if the Nets are going to make it out the first round, but hey, I support everything that you're doing.
Yeah, man. Check it out. I'm working. Game 3 is on Thursday. I'm going to be there. I'm working Thursday. So if anybody's watching, keep an eye out.
Check it. We're going to look out for you, Doc. We're going to look out for you. Thank you again. And thank you for everybody that's tuned in. This is Tell Me More.